Hey guys, I know there's a lot of anticipation and anxiousness kind of about the market right now in the housing around Bozeman and the surrounding areas. So I just kind of wanted to take a minute and talk about a few things. I've heard the word recession thrown around a few times, actually quite a bit. And that's a scary word for all of us. Obviously, the first thing people think when they hear the word recession is 2008, right? Everything fell apart in 2008. Well, that's probably not going to happen this time around because things are so much more regulated than they were. A lot of that was tied to like bad loans being given out and loans being given to people who really weren't qualified. Um, but recession is a big word and it's kind of scary. I know there's a large portion of global leaders that think that the US is headed towards a recession, if not already in a recession. So I just kind of wanted to talk about a few things. Obviously, the economy slowed down, interest rates are rising. And we expected that, you know, if you're a client or a close friend, we've probably talked about that interest rates were going to rise. And that's the Fed's trying to keep track of inflation, kind of hold it down a little bit, right? They pumped all this money into the economy, with the stimulus checks and whatnot. And now they're trying to keep inflation down a little bit by raising the interest rates. Okay. And that's what we've seen. But let's talk about this recession. So over the past 6 recessions we've had, we've seen this. We knew it was going to happen. Interest rates rise steeply at the beginning of these recessions. And then in order to boost the economy kind of out of the recession, the Feds end up dropping the rates in consistent increments almost. And we've seen it come down a little bit from where the rates were. I think Montana's sitting at least as of August 16th, we were sitting at 5.55%, which is down a little bit from where we just were. I'm not saying we hit the ceiling. I don't know if that's the case, but we might have hit the ceiling, but they could also rise, at this point. But I would expect, eventually, if we're not at the ceiling, we're going to hit the ceiling and then we'll see them continually lower. And that's what I want to show you guys, this graph right now. And as you can see on here, it just does a good job. Like if you look 1980, right, there's a big spike in the interest rates and the federal fund rates, but we can talk about that later. But basically, you can see 1981, 1980, you can see all those spikes, right? 1991, you can see it spike right there and then continually decrease. 2008, there's that big spike there. And then we've kind of almost went down to rock bottom. And that's also what's scaring people a little bit right now is that, we've been so used to the lower interest rates for so long that, when you're driving 30 and they raise the speed limit to 45, you feel like you're flying, right? So anyways, and people, are worried about the housing prices falling through the roof. Well, let me tell you, the market's not being flooded with new listings. There are more listings available. And that's just more so due to a decrease, in how quickly these things are selling, right? So they're staying on the market a little longer. We're seeing a little more overlap. We're actually getting close to the pre-COVID numbers, which I'll talk about here in a minute, and I'll show you guys a graph. So during the past 6 recessions, we've actually seen home price change increase 4 out of the 6 times, right? 2008 was crazy. Okay, that was minus 19.7% from where we were. And you can see that on the graph. And that, like I said, that was a very weird year and everything's much more structured now. So that probably won't happen. And I couldn't foresee that happening. And then the only other time it dropped was 1991, which it dropped, a smidgen of a percent here, 1.9%. Not a big drop. But the other times you can see we've actually got an increase in price change at 6.1%, 3.5%, 6.6% in 2001, and then 6% in 2020. So, if you're expecting the prices to fall through the roof, I don't think that's going to happen. But as I said, we're going back to the pre-COVID numbers. So there's more on the market. Buyers can look at a little more. They can take their time. They don't feel like they're having to, bid the price up before the next guy buys it out from under them. We're not seeing as much as that. And I think, if you're a seller too in this market, you got to realize that, hey, we cannot price these based on prices from the last few months because everything's slowed down. The bidding, that little cushion from all the bidding wars that were going on is gone, right? So if you really want to get a good comp for your place, if you're trying to sell, you should maybe look into right before the recession hit, some of those numbers, because that's right where our inventory is about to be. So you might want to look at some of those for comps. And if not, it's okay. You just might have to do some price corrections later. But now I want to talk about a few things in Montana as far as I'll show you right now the inventory, kind of where we're at and where we're headed the next few months, and then what our inventory looked like pre-COVID. And you can see it, we're almost back to where we were pre-COVID, but we're not quite there. Now, just looking at some local numbers, I think it's easy to see, first off in monthly supply, right? Okay, our monthly supply right now is a little under 2 months, 1.9. That's trending upwards a little bit from where we were at. But where we were at pre-COVID is still way down from that, right? So the demand's still way high. I mean, pre-COVID, we were at 4.5 months of supply. Okay, we're nowhere near that right now. So the demand is still very high. Now, let's look at sales price. Okay, sales price is still trending upwards. That's what I mean. I expect, minimal gains. But I do expect that, if you're planning on buying a house and maybe keeping it for 3 or 4 years, that you will see minimal gains from that. And right now, where we're at least July 2022 is $545,000 was the average price per home. Okay. Where were we pre-COVID? We were about $327,000. Okay. So that's a huge uptick, right? All these people, even if they do see a diminished, right? If we see that one outlier case like we did, that was what, 2001 was minus 1.9%. People are still dealing with, a lot of equity in their homes right now. So that we're not going to see those crazy, everybody's trying to sell and get out of there. But if people do want out now, that's some of the stuff coming on the market. And days on market is the last thing I kind of want to touch on. Okay, obviously we can see the days on the market's way down, right? There's still a high demand. So our days on the market are down from where they were. They were about around 70 days on the market pre-COVID, and now we're right around 30. And it's gone up a little bit from where we just were, but right around 30 days on the market. So the market's still doing good. It's not crashing by any means, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good just kind of roundup of what's going on in the Bozeman and surrounding areas in the market right now and what you can kind of expect going forward.